record.
Oh, I
Yeah,
just,
so go ahead, Kim. Start
um,
away.
thank you. My niece, who's 31, has just been diagnosed with stage 2 double negative breast cancer.
Uh-huh.
And I've been looking for information, and I can't really find it on Dr. Gregor's for a diet for somebody undergoing chemotherapy and the best nutrition. I mean, I know it's plant-based, and Dr. Gregor has a bunch for prostate and other kinds of cancer. But is there anything that you guys would recommend for that specifically?
Well, for chemo, I mean, for chemotherapy specifically, or for breast cancer in general?
Well, maybe both.
Well, the first thing anyone should do with breast cancer is read the book "Breasts: An Owner's Manual" with Dr. Christy Funk. Are you familiar with that book?
I just finished reading it actually because you had it on the table that one time I saw you, and it's great, by the way. So
Yeah, thanks. So I'll show Kim on the website.
Okay. I've written it down anyway, so that's great.
Okay, I'll show you
Okay.
where it's at here. So if you just go to the book to the resources, you'll see under the drop downs resources, you can just go to books directly to the books section, and I have it here. So scroll down and it's right there. Breast: The Owner's Manual by Dr. Christy Funk. So that definitely recommend that one. And then there's actually a lot of data on water only fasting for people on chemotherapy. So you actually do a water only fast, so you whole food plant-based diet, of course, like you said, and then 24 hours before you do chemotherapy, you actually do a water only fast. And then the chemotherapy, the studies are showing the chemotherapy works better, and you end up with less side effects. So there's a bunch of studies on that. Um, I think Gregor had some stuff on that too, but that's if they decide that they're going to do chemo. Of course, we always worry about increased risk of metastases with the chemo, and there's like Dr. McDougall does not recommend chemo like um, when he was alive and doing all that stuff. So it's definitely an individual choice, but it's a risk because you end up higher risk of having other cancers and stuff. So there is some controversy on that. Not for like blood cancers like Hodgkin's and things like that. Chemotherapy just definitely has a place in treatment, but it for breast cancer, it's a little bit, a lot of the other kinds of cancers, it's a little bit you know, on the fence, as far as whether it's really going to be helpful. Because what you always hear about is what the quotes that they always give is the 5-year mortality, not total mortality. So if you actually ask your cancer doctor for what is the percent risk reduction, absolute risk reduction for chemotherapy for this type of cancer on total mortality, not for 5-year mortality, because that's what they end up doing is they just talk about what your chances of survival is in 5 years. It's like, well, it depends how early you've detected the cancer. The earlier you detect the cancer, the higher your 5-year mortality, but you might not have any improvement in all cause mortality or in total mortality. So whether you'll be alive 20 years from now versus 5 years from now, that's a big difference. And that's where a lot of the cancer treatments, kind of the data doesn't look so great when you look at total, you know, endpoint mortality, total mortality, not just 5-year mortality.
Okay, great. Those are great suggestions. I will definitely get on that. Thank you.
Gregor does have some videos on foods that fight cancer, the allium group and the cruciferous uh, group. Allium is garlic and onion and leek, and the cruciferous, is for the group's sake, broccoli and cauliflower and kale and collards and all those things, huh?
And there's also Dr. Furman's G bombs. Those are all based on also cancer superfoods to fight cancer is the G bombs. So GBOMBS. So G is greens and garlic, and then the B is beans, and then the O is onions, and the M is mushrooms, and the second B is berries, and then the last is S is seeds. So greens and garlic, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds, those are all have lots of data for fighting cancer.
Notice that G bombs are all plant-based. There's no animal product that's going to give her any benefit. So whatever she can do to avoid the animal products, avoid the processed foods, avoid the oils, that's going to give her best opportunity for success, whether she chooses chemo or does not.
They've already got her on chemo, so that's the route she's going on.
Okay, well, it's,
So this is all very helpful. Thank you.
you bet. Who's next? Anybody else
I
have
love that. I love the G-bombs idea.
Yeah. That's Dr. Joel Furman, Eat to Live.
Now that you mention oils, last time I was here, you mentioned that olive oil is not good for your blood pressure. What about avocado oil or?
Pick your oil, and you wind up with the same result.
Oh, yeah?
It's a very high calorie density food, which has inflammatory effects. Overall, it has very little nutrition overall, in spite of the fact that you hear about the omega-3s, whatever. It's a lot like Jeff Novick. Scott plays Jeff Novick's session, which you may want to listen to. I can't remember what lecture it's under, Scott, maybe, perhaps, but it's not much different than white sugar. You strip the fiber and the other nutrients away from the olives or from the avocados or from any of the foods that's grown in nature, and it becomes inflammatory and not a health promoting food. Doesn't mean you don't like it. You're kind of used to that oily taste in your mouth. But if you wash your own dishes, you'll like it a lot better. They're easier to clean. And after a while, you notice that when you don't eat foods with that oil soaked on your food, you don't have that film that develops in your mouth after you eat a meal. And when then you go out to a restaurant where they serve food with a lot of oil or even a moderate amount, you notice that. Ooh, what's that in my mouth now? If you haven't tried it, I recommend you try it for a month, see what happens, and see if you notice the difference. Just a thought. Scott, do you have any words of wisdom on the oils?
Yeah, just to go back, because you're mentioning things like olive oil and avocado oil. So yeah, those are if you healthier oils compared to palm kernel oil or coconut oil or things like that. So and they're less inflammatory, so they're more anti-inflammatory than those other ones. And so it's good marketing. So whenever you see a study or hear about, oh, choose avocado oil or olive oil instead of these seed oils and palm kernel tropical oils and coconut oil, that's true. Those are improvements. That is an improvement to go from those other oils to these oils like the avocado and the olive. But what we're saying is those, yeah, that might be true. But then if you'd compare olive oil or avocado oil to an olive or to an avocado, There's no, it's hands down, the whole food wins. And so the oil is inflammatory compared to the olive or compared to the avocado. So you're best off just getting your fats from the whole foods as they grow in nature, and you'll get all the fat you need. In fact, you might even get too much fat if you're trying to lose weight and you're eating lots of avocados and lots of olives. You might actually want to back off from that because they do have a lot of calories because they have a lot of fat. But that's the package that's just right for the body, is in the whole food, not from something processed like an oil. And so that's why we try to get people to get away from the oils, because it's just empty calories. It's like Jeff Novick, the dietitian, he said, it's just one of his quotes, is that basically oil is the fat version of refined sugar. So if you take a sugar cane or a beet, a sugar beet, and you just ate the sugar cane or the sugar beet, that's the whole food, and that's where you get your sweet. Whereas if you cook it up and refine it into a white crystalline powder, now you have white refined sugar. That's inflammatory. Whereas the sugar cane itself or the sugar beet would be okay to eat as a whole food, but people don't tend to do that because it's just not, people don't just sit and chew on sugar cane too often. But it's just that the analogy is there. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yep,
Now,
thank you.
Beth in the chat says, look up the great oil debate, forks over knives. I just did a Google search and it's on there, and you might want to listen to that because you obviously are interested in the topic. So you may want to hear what other people have to say about this and make up your mind. May help firm up what your thoughts are for what works for you. And then next is Natalia.
Yeah, and I just wanted to piggyback on that. I just want to confirm that includes extra virgin olive oil, correct? Because sometimes that's sort of, again, to your point, Scott, touted as a little bit healthier. And I have a debate here with my partner because he likes to cook, with oil, because of course it does, food tends to stick and all that. And I know we talked about using water and stuff, but also it was a bit confusing because the Christy Funk book that you recommended, like I just said, it's a great book and I just finished it, but she does mention extra virgin olive oil in there. So it was a bit confusing because I know we talked about that last time, and then and I don't know, she just kind of throws that in there because maybe as a to make things a little bit more easier for people to sort of digest or something. I don't know. So I just wanted to mention that. But
well, with all the different, there's a whole, I've read many plant-based authors that have different some differences, and they recommend certain foods and things and like that, and a lot of it has to do with just food preferences. People have their own food preferences, and people have their own dietary styles, and it's not to say you couldn't necessarily be healthy if you were eating olive oil. It's just, people for taste and for cooking. But if you're trying, don't add it into your diet because you think it's good for you. You're actually better off, as we talked about. But you're always going to find little nuances amongst the different people, because not everyone follows all of the science to a T with every single thing. And that's why we always talk about Dr. Greger, because he's not recommending any particular diet, or he's not writing a book from a certain platform about, oh, I'm just like Dr. Funk's just focusing on cancer. And then, I've read other books where they're focusing on other things, and they have kind of their own little kind of opinions on different things. But when you look at like nutrition facts and things like that, that's just what the balance of the evidence says about all these different nutritional topics. There's no just perspective of, oh, I'm coming at it writing this book about this particular topic, and this is what I know about nutrition when it comes to this thing. Whereas this is just Dr. Greger's just what's the nutrition science say after reviewing 100,000 papers every year. The staff, what is the balance of the evidence tell us about all these different things? And so we're kind of going at it from just a kind of a general standpoint. What's like I talk about in class all the time, what are the pros and cons of this food? And so think of it that way. It's almost the easiest way to do it, rather than just looking at a dietary pattern or style. And for this particular problem, whether it's cancer or heart disease or whatever, you just look at it, keep all that out of it and just go, okay, what are the pros and cons of any particular food? You can name any particular food and I could give you the pros and the cons to that food. And then what you apply to that is, well, what are you wanting to eat this? What are your health goals, and what are you wanting to eat this food for? Is because you think it's healthy, or is it healthier than the thing you were eating before? Are you just moving in the direction towards healthier eating, or are you just splitting hairs? Okay, what are the pros and cons of this particular food? And what is there a choice I could make that's different from this food to help me achieve the health goals that I want, whether it's to lose weight or to get off your blood pressure medication, to reverse your heart disease, to put your diabetes in remission. What is it you're going for? And then we look at that food and say, okay, what are the pros and cons of that food? Is there a healthier choice we could make to help you get to that goal? So I think it's always kind of good to kind of keep that perspective, instead of just like kind of focusing on, because if you read more and more of these books and different things and come to more classes, you might say, well, this doctor, this person says this, and this one says this, and I'll kind of come back to Jeff Novick again, the dietitian. I'm not saying any of you are doing this. I'm just saying, as just the trap you don't want to fall into is, a lot of times people will come, and I've heard this over the 12 years I've been doing this and teaching classes and stuff, is that, and Jeff Novick's, this is his quote, is a lot of times people focus on the 10% that the science doesn't seem to agree on, so that they don't have to do the 90%, because the 90% we all agree on. The 90% of the science is in academic nutrition is all the same. It's like we know what the healthiest foods are and the dietary patterns, but there is this 10% where this study shows this, and there's some debate about this particular detail, and this doctor says this and this doctor says that. Yeah, there's maybe 5 to 10% that there is some debate about, but a lot of times people focus on that 10% so they don't have to do any of it, because like, see, nobody can decide what's healthy or not. And so don't focus on that 10%, focus on the 90%, and we can debate and have a fun discussing that 10%, and we can hopefully give you the best information that we can based on the science. But again, I'm not saying any of you are doing that right now. I'm just kind of, don't fall into that trap, because that's where people are. So that's what the health industry wants. That's what the nutrition, basically the people that write the books, a lot of times, the ones that are ones that are just not based on good science, and they're just trying to sell books. It's like, hey, have a seed of truth on this particular thing, and then you kind of run with that. And then there's so many differences about what's the healthier dietary pattern, and this and that. What's the healthier food? What's bad? What's good? And then we all just kind of raise up our hands and say, nobody can agree on what's the healthiest dietary pattern, so I'm just gonna eat whatever I want, or what the next book tells me. And that's the problem. And that's nutritional science has kind of gotten reduced to this the health industry, which is just to make money and sell books and get headlines. And we're just trying to, it's boring what we do, but we're just trying to keep people focused on the science and what are the best choices we can make to get the best health that we can. So I'll stop now.
Sarah's going to be next, and then Clarice, but I just want to make a comment. I want to kind of sum up what Scott has to say. I was introduced to Michael Greger through nutritionfacts.org about 12, 13 years ago by a medical student. I blew him off and says, what does a medical student know about nutrition? As it turns out, after I went to Greger's site, I've been following him now for close to 13 years, 12, 13, maybe 13 and a half. I don't know exactly, but close. I've asked everybody in the classes I've had, or medical students, to find something wrong with Greger's work, with his recommendations. I've challenged them, and I haven't found anyone yet who has come up with any significant issue in my mind. And so I trust my life to the science as presented by Dr. Michael Greger on his nutritionfacts.org. Now, he's not the only one promoting this. You know, Neil Barnard, Caldwell Esselstyn, John McDougall, Pritikin, they have all been pretty much in line with some slight variations, as Scott said, but it's eating whole foods is grown in nature, as close as you can with not having processed foods. And oil is a highly processed food. If you can kind of think of it in that way, even though you may be able to get by fine with a little oil in your life, if you're looking for the best benefit and you're looking at the science, following Michael Greger, you're not going to go wrong in my mind. But you all get to decide what you choose to do for yourself. And if you think sticking in the pan is the big issue in your life, then you use a little oil. But you could use, along with the water, some vegetable broth, or buy some different pans that don't stick as much, or whatever it might be. Just a thought. Okay. We'll get back to you, Natalia. And
Oh, yeah,
then,
no worries.
okay, Sarah and Clarice, and then Natalia.
Okay, thank you. I did go to Dr. Greger. I have a little question about this, but my husband is taking Armor Thyroid 30 milligram. And I guess that means that he doesn't have enough thyroid, whatever.
That's
whatever.
correct.
Thank you. And so I was looking, originally I was thinking, oh, well, we use seaweed. And then I was looking up, that iodine is important. I'm not sure how it plays with the thyroid, but that it's important. You can tell me. And then I was getting confused about how much is too much and how much is too little with the kombu, or he said 2 sheets of nori was okay a day or something like that. I don't know. It's just a little hard to know because it said kombu could make you get too much. It could make you not be able to sleep. And I think I was putting it in all the rice, all the quinoa, when I cooked it, and the buckwheat, I was putting it in every day. And it did say that when you cook it, it has less of the iodine. But thank you. If you have any ideas about this. And then also, I was just curious, how often should you check it? And your idea about thyroid is something can help it without this Armor Thyroid, or is that?
Yeah, so something could help it if you're not getting enough iodine.
Okay.
That most people are not using the amounts of sea vegetable that you're choosing to use in your food. It sounds like you're getting an adequate amount of iodine. It's either a couple sheets of nori, or it's a teaspoon of dulse, or about the same of wakame, on a daily basis. So it's 150 micrograms of
what is that?
iodine. You could get that in a tablet, you could get that in drops, or you can calculate from the food sources. I can't tell you exactly how much iodine is in each of the products. You could contact the company and they might have an analysis of how much is in. But if you do a search on Greger's site, Nutrition Facts, and just do like Dulse, DULSE, and he'll tell you how much to use. And, it's about a package once a month for a person to get an adequate amount of iodine. And of course, you get omega-3s with the sea vegetables also, which are definitely healthy choices. Now, if you were doubling that, it might be too much, and it might cause you to have a goiter, an enlargement of your thyroid gland. So I would say that he's likely going to need to keep taking thyroid with the amount of iodine that he's getting in his diet. That's my first thought. But just make sure you're getting about 150, but not more than 200, 250 micrograms of iodine a day.
Okay. And then how often would you check that? Like to see if it changes?
Well, I never check an iodine level.
Or
I
the
check
thyroid? Did they
the
check the thyroid?
thyroid, I would check every, I don't know, when you make a change in your diet, I usually have been doing about 6 to 8 weeks. I don't know if you could do a month, but I think 6 to 8 weeks. Scott, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, when people are on thyroid replacement, we check it once a year minimum. But then if it's ever abnormal, the thyroid stimulating hormone level is high or low, then we check it every 6 to 8 weeks until if we're going to make a dosing adjustment. But so if you're changing your diet, adding more iodine, and you were curious to see, what it did to your thyroid, then you'd want to check it after 6 to 8 weeks to see. But usually you'll have symptoms too. If your thyroid's too high, then you'll be having weight loss and having tremors and hair loss, and you'll feel hot all the time. That's when your thyroid's too high. When it's too low, then you have weight gain, fatigue, also can get hair loss. And those are symptoms of too high or too low. And that's, if you're on a replacement, then that usually means we need to check it again to make an adjustment in the dosage. Or if it, like Charlie said, if your thyroid's low because you're iodine deficient, then that would potentially correct itself when you took the iodine. But most people that have low thyroid, it's because their immune system attacked and destroyed their thyroid gland, and so then they have to. It's called Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and it kills off the thyroid gland, and then you have to be on replacement, and you'll always have to be on replacement because your immune system destroyed it. But there are some cases where people it was autoimmune and they had some thyroid function left, and when they changed their diet and lifestyle, their thyroid function started to come back. And so there are case studies of that, but for the most part, that doesn't happen.
So is Hashimoto's when somebody has low thyroid and it's not because of iodine? Is that what you're saying?
It's because their immune system attacked it. Yeah. So Hashimoto's, basically your immune system attacks and destroys your thyroid gland. And so then you just don't that's the most common cause of low thyroid is Hashimoto's. Okay. Yeah. And then there's Graves' disease, which is basically your thyroid's too high and you have symptoms of high thyroid. And then you have to take a medication to suppress your thyroid to kill it off so that you can stop having those symptoms. And then once the thyroid's killed off with the medication, then you have to go on thyroid replacement. And that's where the people get the big eyes and stuff like that. Great. It's called thyroid eye disease. That's usually with Graves' disease, when people have had to live with really high thyroid levels until they took the medication long enough to kill it off. And the medication is usually methimazole, is one of the drugs that's used to kill off the thyroid.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Clarice.
Okay, thank you. This brought up a second question, so can I have two questions?
Of course you can.
Okay, thanks. I've been on thyroid for a long time. I take liothyronine and levothyroxine, and should I be taking seaweed? I mean, I've never been told that by my doctor, and I don't know, would the
Do you
seaweed
get iodine from anything else? Do you use iodized salt, or are you getting no iodine or salt in your
Well,
diet?
I don't use salt because I know these two people named Dr. Ross and Scott Wagnon that tell me to be careful about my salt. I don't know if you know them, but
Yeah, we've heard of them.
yeah,
They're kind of odd characters.
right, right.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're getting zero iodine in your life. So if you want to add a little omega-3s extra along with a little iodine, get a package of Dulse. The first taste you have of it, hopefully your tongue doesn't do what mine did. It's like it tastes terrible. And you could kind of train your tongue, which I did, because it's important to have iodine, or you could just take iodine tablet or drops.
But it wouldn't hurt, it wouldn't be a counterindicative to the thyroid medicine.
Well, if you start producing your own because now you have enough iodine, then you might become having too much thyroid, and having the symptoms that Scott talked about, where your heart races a little, or you get a little tremor, or you feel anxious, those sorts of things. And you can follow it by just doing a thyroid function or a thyroid stimulating test, a hormone,
Right.
TSH, and
Right.
see what happens when you incorporate iodine into your diet. If your TSH level shows that you have an overactive thyroid, then your doctor may cut back on the iodine or the levothyroxine or one of the thyroid
Yeah.
preparations you're taking.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I had my thyroid tested today. I don't have the results yet, but I did see my endocrinologist slash gynecologist and told him about both of you. And he sounded very interested. But my other question is, since I've known you two, I've quit using olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, and up until hearing you, um, I was under the impression that extra virgin olive oil was good for inflammation and all of that stuff. So the fact that I was using it, has that harmed me? Or,
Well,
because
it's
there's
not
so
so
many things.
healthy for you at the time. Has it harmed you permanently for life? I wouldn't go that far because, you can your body tends to heal itself up. And so whatever damage or injury, once you stop that, I would say a vast majority, 8 out of 10 people, have the ability to reverse the chronic diseases they've developed over time.
But it's like, how come there's all these people out there saying, oh, use olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's so sorry, it's so frustrating.
Scott, you
I
Well,
want
find,
to deal with
this
that?
it was exactly what I just talked about on my soapbox a few minutes ago. Just it's basically, yeah, if you were using lard and Crisco oil and seed oil and coconut oil and palm kernel oil, and you made a switch to extra virgin olive oil, that's an improvement. You have less inflammation in your body because you made that switch. And so that's the kind of studies that are done that show, hey, look at that. When you actually go from this horrible diet with all these inflammatory oils and you suddenly use a less inflammatory oil, i.e. the olive oil, that's an improvement. And so you can show in studies that's good, that's an improvement. And so there's nothing wrong with doing that. But then once you get to the olive oil and you're like, well, but I want to lose more weight or I want to reverse heart disease. Well, oil, even the extra virgin olive oil is not helping you. Yeah, it's a lesser of two evils. So it's like Dr. Greger says, do you want to be shot or stabbed? It's better to get stabbed than to get shot, but how about neither, right? So yeah, you're going to more likely survive getting stabbed than getting shot. So the olive oil's the knife, and the other oils and all the other bad stuff is the gun. So
yeah,
you want to not injure yourself at all. So let's switch to olives and avocados, not to avocado oil and olive oil. When we know better, we do better.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the questions. Stephen.
Yeah, I just wanted to provide an anecdote. My mother,
Okay.
my mother developed Graves' disease when she was in her 30s. And her, the symptom that she had, the only symptom she had was her eyes bulged out. Now, she lived her entire life within 10 miles of the coast. So she ate lots of seafood, and she ate dairy much of her life until she got much older. But and at the time they gave you a radioactive cocktail that burned out your thyroid completely, and then they put you on thyroid medicine. Well, it didn't really affect her life. I mean, she lived to a week before 97. So she had a very long and productive life. Being on thyroid was not a problem. And iodine wouldn't have been a problem in those days because of seafood, just like eating seaweed. And also, one of the most common disinfectant they use on dairy cattle is iodide based, and it tends to leach out into the milk or into the dairy products. So people that eat dairy products don't have a problem with iodine. Now, I'm not suggesting eat dairy products, but I'm just saying that historically it wasn't a problem because you ate seafood or you had dairy, then you so and that wouldn't have, you know, given the age that she developed this disease, it was more likely to be something that was genetic, a disposition to have that disease. It's not completely clear, but that, you know, at that early age, it would be less likely probably. So, you know, there are genetic differences between us, and in some people, they tend to overproduce things, and some people, you know, at least in an early age. So I just wanted to pass that on, that an iodine, that a thyroid deficiency doesn't necessarily limit your lifespan, from my experience with my mom.
Thanks for sharing that. And also the issue of iodine that's on the cow's udders. For the people who continue to use dairy, we make a point of it, because for those people who are avoiding all salt and avoiding all dairy, they're generally not getting enough iodine in their food. So we
And just so you know,
to...
Graves' disease is also caused by your autoimmune. So it's actually the thyroid stimulating immunoglobulins that target and activate the TSH receptor, leading to unregulated thyroid hormone synthesis. So it is, but you know, can run in families, but there are genetic factors. I'm just reading up here. I looked it up, but yeah, so it is also autoimmune. Your immune system essentially causes unregulated amounts of thyroid hormone to be created.
Thanks, Scott. Enrique.
So if you don't eat dairy products and you don't eat salt, which normally contains iodine, it means that you're going to have to take iodine supplements.
Well, if you're not
compensate?
getting iodine from any other sources, some people take vitamins with a supplement of iodine in it, or they're eating fish, which has some iodine in it.
But which natural products? I mean, no, plant-based food would give you the required iodine.
I don't know of any plant-based foods that give you the required amount of iodine other than sea vegetables. Sea vegetables will give you the required amount, and it's a package. It comes in a 1 ounce or 2 ounce package called Dulse is one option. There's Wakame, taking about the same amount, about a teaspoon a day.
How do you spell dulse?
What's that?
How do you spell dulse?
Dulse.
B as in boy?
D as in dog, U
Okay.
as in upper, L is Libra, S like Sam, and E like Echo. Dulce. So again, it doesn't taste all that good. Some people seem to think it's good. I didn't, but after a while, now I miss it if I don't get it. Steamed with my steamed greens, or just added to a salad. It's got a little bit of a sea flavor, a fish flavor, maybe a lot of flavor initially. And I encourage you to watch Gregor's videos about the benefits of it, because it's not just the iodine you're getting from Dulse or Wakame or nori, the 2 sheets of nori. It's the omega-3 additional, the anti-inflammatory omega-3s that you also get from flax seeds and you get from walnuts, the omega-3s, which
Yeah,
are healthy.
okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Natalia.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention, so the miso soup, right? Would like you can put some wakame and some, and I guess I was gonna ask you, because, for example, if you're trying to reduce the sodium, and I know that there's also, Dr. Greger has touched base on this, but I was curious about your thoughts on oh, miso.
Miso.
Miso,
Miso.
yes.
Yeah, so miso's healthy, and he has commented, and he says for some reason the amount of sodium in it doesn't seem to have the same effects. Why? The combination of ingredients in it. It is a healthy choice, and I wouldn't stir you away from or
Okay.
point you away from using the famous miso soup.
Okay, great. Because yeah, when we love using doing miso soup here, and we've put wakame and kombu in there, and it actually tastes pretty good. So Padre, I'll give you the recipe.
That sounds great. And is it wakame? I've heard it as wakame, but wakame, okay.
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay. Well, however you spell it, there
Wakame,
is an advantage of doing wakame or wakame.
Yeah.
Wakame, there is an advantage, it's the advantage that you get not only the short chain omega-3s, but it has the most number of medium and long chain omega-3s. And there's a debate about whether people should have DHA and EPA. Different people, different authorities have different guesses as to what is the correct thing to do. And if you don't like to buy a supplement and you're worried about your DHA and EPA, your medium and longer chain omega-3s, if you think your body's not going to be able to convert the short chain into the long, and there are people who claim, yeah, as you get older, you can't do it as well, but I don't know. I haven't seen the evidence that's convinced me to take a supplement. I haven't transitioned to wakame as yet. I still use dulse, although I've been reading, and I may get there eventually because I know wakame has the healthiest iodine, omega-3s, and whatever. So wakame soup, or with miso, put it in soups and salad. Wakame comes in, it has a granular form, a small granular form, which is very tolerable and not so offensive. It might be initially, but the one that's offensive to me is the bigger, broader leafed wakame, which is mushy and it reminds me of eating snails, which I've never eaten in my life, but maybe oysters would be more. And some of you who are not bothered by oysters may not mind a little mushier product. That's the best I can do on wakame. Okay, we still have some hands up. Clarice.
Yes,
And then Stephen. And
okay.
then
How
Marcia.
do we know if we have enough iodine, and where would you get wakame and dulse?
I've never ordered an iodine level. You would know if your thyroid function's normal, you're getting enough iodine. So follow your thyroid function and you're probably going to be all right. Some people say you need a little selenium with it also, and you could get that with Brazil nut once a week. So 4 Brazil nuts a month. So I'd encourage you to consider doing that. And then where do you get the wakame and dulse? you can go to Whole Foods, you could go to probably Sundance, you could probably get it at Fred Meyer. It's become pretty common throughout most of the markets. I haven't looked specifically at Safeway and Albertsons, but you
I think they have nori sheets at Costco now too, don't they? Pretty sure they
Well,
do.
they do, but they do have really good seaweed there. But I think I asked you about that one time, and you said you thought there might be too much salt in it.
Yeah, they have salt, those little ones, they have salt and oil.
yeah, they have the oil in
Yeah,
it.
the little ones, yeah.
Yeah, they taste good. And if you have a little oil like that, you're not using oil in other products, but you're getting it just for the iodine and the omega-3s. If that's what you can find and that's what you can afford and that works for you, I would say probably worth doing.
I kind of like them.
Okay, well, then you're getting iodine from them.
Yeah, I haven't had it in a long time because you said not to use it, but maybe I'll do it once a month or something.
Well, you want it on a regular basis. You want to get enough iodine on a regular basis, however you can get it. Stephen. And then Marcia.
Yeah, I wanted to say, I grew up on the other Portland, and from my research, the vegetable, the the vegan, the best vegan source of iodine is cranberries. And there's probably a reason for that. I'm just assuming I know the reason, but cranberries are generally grown in bogs very close to the ocean. You know, Plymouth, Mass, you know, right on the coast is a big cranberry growing area, and so is Bandon. So I suspect that what happens is the sea breezes bring you know, stuff in from the ocean, and it gets deposited in the soil, and then the cranberries pick it up and pass it on to us. So that would be, you know, one food that is fairly high in iodine compared to other foods. And I don't really know what Dr. Ross or Dr. Wagnon would know how many micrograms you're supposed to have, but I think cranberries have like 400 micrograms in a quarter of a pound. So,
Yeah, the recommended dietary allowance is 150 micrograms a day of iodine.
Yeah, so you probably would need to eat between 1 and 2 ounces of iodine of cranberries a day and get your iodine.
Well, that's interesting. I wasn't aware of that. Thanks.
So eat your cranberries at Thanksgiving.
Well, you'd want to eat them at Thanksgiving and then throughout the week.
Right.
So it says 1 cup. I just did a Google search, AI overview. According to the USDA National Nutrient Database, 1 cup of fresh cranberries contains 5 micrograms of iodine. 5 micrograms. You'd have to eat a lot of cups of cranberries to get to the 150 micrograms on a daily basis. So I'd still go with the supplement until someone points you in another direction. I know Gregor hasn't. It says our cranberry is good for thyroid. And again, it just talks about inflammation, good source of dietary fiber, but it doesn't mention anything. Oh, are they a good source of iodine? Here it says almost 1 ounce of cranberries contains approximately 100 micrograms of iodine. So I'm not sure which reference is correct here.
You know, the AI one I saw, it just said, like, just like Steve said, if they're grown near the sea, close enough to the sea, it makes the difference. So maybe some of the ones, maybe the ones that said there was only 5 micrograms in a cup, maybe that wasn't, I don't know if that was near the sea or not, because you know there's trace amounts in just the soil in general, so you're getting some, but
So here's what fruits are high in iodine. Prunes have 13 micrograms in 5 dried prunes. So it's a trace, not enough.
So would the iodine go away if you drink cranberry juice?
I think it still has it in it. I think the search I just
I
did said it.
wouldn't go with cranberry juice. You're leaving off
Yeah.
the fiber, and you know,
Exactly.
they oftentimes put loads of sugar in those cranberry juices. You got to be careful about, you know, read the
Right,
labels if you're going to
right,
be.
right.
It does say cranberry juice would have a lower amount of iodine than cranberries because the dilution aspect. But yeah, you wouldn't want to. You generally don't recommend people drink juice at all because it's just sugar and no fiber.
It's all over the place about whether they are rich in iodine or not. Different sources. And so, like I say, we've been listening to Gregor a long time. I haven't heard him recommend any particular fruit or veggie for your iodine source. Marcia.
Actually, you guys answered my question. I was just wondering where to buy it. And then I realized I have bought it before. So I just didn't remember where I bought it. So it got answered.
Oh, okay.
How do you, Charles and Scott, have it? Because you said you have to have it every day. So what do you guys put it on if you eat it every day?
I eat dulse every day.
But do you put it on something or just like
Yeah,
how do you?
so my wife steams the greens, or I steam them when she's dealing with a wrist fracture. And then we tear up a little bit of dulse into the greens and they get steamed at the same time and we eat them together.
Okay, great.
And for me, I haven't really taken to any of those sea vegetables except for I do usually once a week when I go grocery shopping at Market of Choice, I get the vegan sushi, so it has a little seaweed in it, and I usually eat that once a week. But that's not going to be enough iodine for me for the week, and so about 3 days a week I take a iodine supplement. It's made from kelp granules, and it's actually a 225 microgram tablet. So I take one of those 3 days a week, and then one day a week I have the seaweed. So it seems to be fine for me. So because I don't use salt either, so because I'm really salt sensitive, and so I don't put salt on food. So that's what I do because I just haven't really gotten into the habit of or acquired the taste for the dulse or the nori or any of that stuff. So I just take the supplement.
All right, thank you.
That's why it's good to have both of us hanging around, you know, to kind of share some different thoughts, and you can choose to do what works for you. And, you know, we've been experimenting around a bit.
One thing that I like about Gregor, at least as far as I know, is that some of these guys sell you products and it's like buy 3, but then you can get a better price if you get 6 or 9 or 12. And he doesn't sell products, right?
Correct.
So I figured that his information is not bound by marketing and prolific sales.
Perfect reasoning, and one of the main reasons why we have followed him and why he has become so trustworthy in my mind. He lives totally on donations.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I just wish he talked slower.
Well, he's got a lot on his mind when you're
I
going
know.
through 100,000 articles with what 19 other people interacting with you throughout the week and being, giving talks here and there, and
Right.
you're kind of in a high velocity there. But I
I'm
hear you.
really not trying, I'm really not trying to be critical. It's just that, sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, he said something and I would like to think about it, but I can't because then he's on to the next thing.
Clarice, you're not alone. We've
Okay.
heard this from a number of other people throughout the years, and
Okay.
we have had to listen to his videos multiple times at times
Sure.
until it finally sinks in. So you're not abnormal, okay? You're normal.
Good.
And sometimes what I don't want to hear is when I do a daily Gregor video that comes in, sometimes I'm not in the mood to listen to it really fast, like he talks so fast. And so I'll just click the transcript and I'll just read it. And
Oh,
it's just then I can read it at my own pace. It's everything he says in the video, but you just read it instead.
oh, good point.
Mhm.
All right, Kim, and then Marcia.
Oh,
Sorry. So you guys, do you have spreadsheets? Scott says he has iodine 3 times a week. You have Brazil nuts 3 times a month. I mean, how do you keep track of all of the micronutrients that you need per week?
Well, there aren't a lot of micronutrients. There's vitamin B12, which we take every single day. And if we're under age 65, only once a week. So how you keep track of that? You just do it, once you get in the habit. And then there's vitamin D for me. I take that every day, 2000, unless it's summer and I'm getting a lot of sun. And I say to myself, oh, I don't want another pill today. I've had enough sun over this week or whatever it might be. That's how I do it in summer. But in winter, it's every day, we're doing it. And then, spring and fall, depending on what the days are like, I'll take it most of the days. And then, so those are 2. And then there's the iodine, which I've managed to maneuver with just doing the dulse every day. And then there's the selenium. I like Brazil nuts, and I was eating them every day for a while, but they're pretty costly. And aside from the fact that they're expensive, you can get too much selenium. So I've been thinking about it and saying, I'll eat 1 or 2 a week. I have them in the freezer or refrigerator. I buy a small quantity and I just kind of dole it out. And if I miss 1 week, it won't kill me. If I eat 2 of them in a week or 3 of them, it's not going to kill me. And so I don't really care if it's exactly 1 every single week. I just do it, and that's how I get by with those nutrients. And
And we
that's
don't want you to be killed.
okay.
No selenium
Gotta
overdose
stick
for you.
around.
Yeah.
And I kind of do the same thing, but I actually have one of those pill organizers just for my vitamins. And so, yeah, I have but it's just all it's in there is the B12 and the vitamin D. And then I sprinkle in 3 days a week. I do put the iodine in there. So that's it for me. And then same thing, I have a small amount of Brazil nuts in my little airtight container that I buy in bulk. And then I just, once or twice a week, I pop a Brazil nut, and that's pretty much it for me.
So that's it for your supplements.
Yeah, and then the rest is just
It's just food.
Food.
Yeah. Thank you.
These are fun questions.
Yeah.
I have another one.
Okay, Clarice.
Sorry, I'm very inquisitive.
Don't be sorry. That's what these sessions are about.
Oh, good. So I've been told, and you can clarify, that with the vitamin D, it's really good to take K3, I think, with it.
Gregor addressed that in a video, and he said you probably don't need to. You're getting enough K in the dark green leafies that you're eating if you're following his daily dozen. So if you're getting enough dark green leafies, you're getting enough vitamin K. You don't have to spend extra money is the bottom line.
And your gut flora convert the K into the K2. I can't remember the conversion, but yeah, he's got videos about that. But basically the summary is don't worry about it. Just eat the green leafies, you'll get all the vitamin K you need.
So is it D3 then you take?
Yes.
Correct.
And the B12 is cyanocobalamin. It's not methylcobalamin.
And there's
Now,
nothing wrong with
it's like,
methylcobalamin.
ooh,
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the methylcobalamin. It's just a little bit more expensive. But the reason that Dr. Greger recommends the cyanocobalamin is because that's what they used in most of the studies for B12 and keeping your homocysteine level low down and this and that. So he generally tends to recommend the things that they use in the studies, even though it's probably fine to use the other forms of different things, especially like the methylcobalamin, but it doesn't really matter.
I gotta say that I used methylcobalamin my first 6 or 7 or 8 years, and I survived, and I was just fine. And then I kept listening to Gregor telling me about get cyanocobalamin, and so I got it because that's what he recommends. But like Scott said, methyl is just fine too.
I have a little anecdote, if I may interject here. I
You
was
may.
okay. I was taking methylcobalamin, and my doctor, because I've been vegan for a while, and she checked my B12 and noticed that it was really low. And I was like, what? That's impossible. I've been taking methyl. And when I went to check one of his videos, I guess what he said, like you said, Scott, that neither one is both of them are fine, but that the cyanocobalamin was shown to be absorbed better. So I guess my body was not absorbing methyl because it was super low. And then once I switched to cyanocobalamin, I haven't had that issue. So just to put that out there, but
You haven't had
Yeah.
that issue. Did you get it retested?
yeah, I did. Yeah. And it wasn't as low as, I mean, it's better now. Yeah.
Okay, so did you do a vitamin B12 level or did you do an MMA level?
Ooh, good question. I think it was a B12, but
Yeah. So you've been listening to Gregor, and if you're listening closely,
yeah.
you find that the vitamin B12 is the amount of vitamin B12 you have in your serum, in your bloodstream, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's acting well intracellularly. And so the intracellular amount of B12 and its activity is what's really important. And the way you're going to really evaluate that is with an MMA level.
Oh, okay. So
Good.
when I go to the doctors, I should ask them to, well, that I didn't know that actually. Yeah, that's true. But
Well, that's why you're coming to these classes.
yeah, exactly. So I'm sorry, could you say that again? The
Methyl malonic acid, MM, Mary, A, apple.
Okay, Mary.
And if you do a search for that on Gregor's site, you'll be able to watch a video and see what he has to say. And
Okay.
the level should be, I think it's less than 4 or greater than 4. I really don't order those levels. I just
Oh,
tell people get your vitamin B on board and do it in the amounts that Gregor recommends, and you shouldn't have to keep testing yourself.
Huh.
Yeah, and
Go
B12 is
ahead.
an okay screening test. I mean, I order it all the time, especially for patients with diabetes that are taking metformin, because metformin can cause B12 deficiency. But if you have somebody that you're really worried about their B12 level, to get the most accurate B12 level because of whether they're getting enough uh, from their diet, if they're doing plant-based or whatever, or if they start to get symptoms that you're worried about B12 deficiency, which can be neuropathy in your hands and your fingers and toes and things like that, then you do want to get the MMA level, and then also get a homocysteine level too, because people that are low in B12 tend to have high homocysteine, and high homocysteine, it causes inflammation in the arteries. And so it's super important. And that's not just Dr. Greger. I actually remember way back when I was in PA school 20 years ago now, we had a lecture that I still have notes from way back then, and during continuing education too, from a hematologist, an actual blood doctor, hematologist, and actually said that the most accurate test for B12 and folate deficiency is MMA and homocysteine, not just the direct folate level or direct B12 level. So that's that goes way back, but yeah, so it's really important to if you're trying to make sure you're getting enough B12. It sounds like you got it figured out, but you might consider having, like Charlie said, have your doctor check an MMA level just to make sure. That's the best test for B12 is MMA. But it would also be good to, because a lot of times you can do it at the same time, also check a homocysteine level, because that tends to be high if you have low B12 also. So, but sometimes insurance isn't like covering those. But I often will check homocysteine in my patients that are plant-based, and they're and if they're if they really want to know what their B12 is, or if they have heart disease and they're trying to reverse heart disease, it's really important to keep their homocysteine level down, because you can ruin a really healthy plant-based diet by having elevated homocysteine from not taking enough B12, because that will also go high. So MMA will be high and homocysteine will be high if you're low in B12.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. Thank you for all that.
I know that's a lot, sorry.
No,
So-
that was good. I wrote it down, so thank you.
No, I'm the one that was going, "Bah!"
Yeah,
I'm trying to write this down. So people on metformin can have low B12?
correct. Metformin can directly cause low B12. So it's recommended that all of our patients with diabetes that are on metformin, we're actually supposed to check their B12 once a year.
Huh. So can I ask my question now?
Before you
just
ask
don't
your
have a-
question, I just want to answer one chat room because it's getting late for Beth.
Oh, sure.
Is there cyanide in cyanocobalamin? And yes, there is a cyanide atom in the cyanocobalamin molecule. But if you listen to Greger, listen to his videos, and you will find that it's not enough cyanide to cause you to have cyanide poisoning. That was one of the main reasons I chose methylcobalamin, because I thought, I don't want to be taking cyanide. That doesn't make sense in my life. And he convinced me that I'm not poisoning myself by taking cyanocobalamin. Listen to the videos on his site. He has them. Okay, Clarice, sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, no, that's fine. I take vitamin B12 shots once a month. Is that good, bad, indifferent?
It's
Well,
unnecessary, but go
yeah,
ahead.
most
It's
people
what?
don't need it. Most people don't need to take an injection. You can just take the pill. But sometimes people, if they have a lot of acid reflux symptoms and they're taking like Prilosec or Pepcid because they're having really bad heartburn, then you might not be absorbing the B12 very well from your stomach, because you need stomach acid to have something called intrinsic factor, which will help you absorb the vitamin B12. So people that are taking these heavy duty acid reducers because they have heartburn might need to have a B12 injection once a month. But the studies show that doing B12 injections actually can cause acne. So that's one of the symptoms of getting B12 from an injection, is it can cause skin acne. But if you're not having heartburn, you're not taking an one of these heavy duty acid reducers, you probably don't need to do injections. You could just take if you're over 65, take the 1,000 micrograms once a day and you're going to be fine.
So the other comment that I have about that is, I believe, listening to Greger's videos, at one point in time, the doses that you take are so high that he's set these dose levels such that even if you were low on that intrinsic factor, that you would have a high enough level that it would diffuse across the cells. I may be wrong about that, but I'll have to go back and listen to those videos again as to whether that's more of a theoretical consideration about taking, the proton pump inhibitors, acid suppressants. I think you'll get an adequate amount if you follow what he recommends, even if you're taking those medicine. I don't know. That's my take, but I may be wrong. Scott and I'll debate that one day.
Yeah, I'm
Thank
not
you.
sure if it has to do with that or if it's just you only absorb a certain amount, a very small percentage of it. That's why he recommends such a high dose. But I didn't know if that was supposed to be controlling for the acid reducers or not. I didn't know that particular part. If you heard him say that, I'm not sure. Myself, I'm not sure.
That was my take on it. So I guess I'm going to listen again, and you probably will too. We'll figure it out.
Jerry's trying to show us pills.
What's that?
Jerry's trying to show us a picture of Twin Lab B12 dots.
So Jerry, let's see if I can find her so I can show it on the screen. Oh, there it is. So it's B12 dots, which are sublingual. That's what I take. I take 1,000 micrograms of those B12 dots, 2 of them every day, and they get absorbed through the mucosa in my mouth. And you don't necessarily have to get them absorbed in your stomach. You see how tiny they are? They're
I
kind
believe
of
her.
tiny little dots. Now, if you're taking the B12 that you like swallow a capsule, I guess there is some theoretical consideration about what Scott was talking about acid suppressant in your stomach. If you're taking B12 that you're absorbing through your oral mucosa in the mouth tissues, you wouldn't have that intrinsic factor issue. So
Although I saw a recent study that actually came out, I don't know if it was a Gregor video or not, but it showed that the majority, even if you do the sublingual, the majority of the absorption is still in your stomach because most of the saliva is just going down into your stomach. You're getting maybe a little bit sublingual absorption, but you're still getting the majority of the absorption in your stomach, even with the sublingual. So the studies didn't show much difference between doing sublingual versus just swallowing the capsule. So that's that's something I saw recently.
Well, that's interesting. I haven't seen that, but it makes sense actually, because, I sometimes have to chew it up a little bit, and I do swallow before it could get completely absorbed. So that's interesting that a study was done like that. Okay. Anyway, Gregor's been doing this for years, and he recommends 1,000 micrograms once a day if you're over age 65. If you're under age 65, it's 2,000 micrograms once a week.
Say again, over 65.
Over 65, it's 1,000 micrograms. It's either 2 of those 500 micrograms that Jerry showed us, or it's 1 capsule or tablet of 1,000 micrograms, or however
Every
you
day.
get it.
And that's MCG, right? Microgram
Every
is
day.
MCG. But microgram is shortened to MCG.
MCG. And your body does store this for a number of weeks and months. And so it's not like if you miss a day, it's a criminal offense, or that you're not going to live. I think that it's probably a little bit overkill with the medication, but it's not going to harm you. So go ahead and take it.
It's
Let's
a water
see.
soluble. It's a water soluble vitamin, so you'll just have expensive pee if you have too much.
So Tim, you say I have a low BUN creatinine level. What does this mean? BUN creatinine level of 8.
I guess it's the ratio. Sorry, not level.
It's the ratio.
Ratio. Yeah.
There you go. If you probably have a normal BUN and a normal creatinine, correct?
No, I have a low BUN too.
If you have a low BUN, blood urea nitrogen, and creatinine doesn't mean anything to me. It's like, it's okay. That's what I would say.
Okay, thank you.
Not to worry. Now, if you had an elevated BUN, that could be from dehydration. It could be from a intestinal bleeding source. It could be.
So low is better than high.
As low is better than high.
Good.
And your lower level could be related to how they ran the test. Maybe they didn't have the exact amount of reagents, and I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay, thank you.
Your kidney creatinine is a kidney function test, so is the BUN, and it's sort of diagnosing whether you're able to clear the toxic wastes in your body. Well, so I don't know. Scott, maybe you find something.
Well, the most common cause of having low BUN and creatinine is from excessive hydration. So a lot of IV fluids or just being overly hydrated just dilutes it out. That's the most common cause.
So are you drinking a lot of water, Kim?
Not an abnormally amount of water. So.
Okay. All right. You'll sleep well tonight. Not to worry about it.
Thank you.
Okay.
What do you recommend for ounces of water a day?
Enough water to keep your urine light yellow or almost clear.
Okay.
8 to 10. Is it 8 to 10 cups? 6 to 10?
Well, there's no good recommendation because everyone has different muscle mass, body size, sweat, how much they exercise, how much water you get in the food you eat. So it's really, even though you'll see recommendations for, 8 cups or whatever, that's still not very reliable, not very good to do. And so you're just, like Charlie said, you just want to make sure you're peeing every 2 to 4 hours and your urine is clear with a slight yellow tinge. And then if you really want to get more details, this is actually Dr. Greger has a video on this. If you really want to get a kind of a more objective test, what you do is you completely empty your bladder. So after you've gone pee, so your bladder's completely empty, then you drink 24 ounces of water. So that's 3 cups, 8 ounces per cup is 8 ounces. So 24 ounces, that's 3 cups. Drink 3 cups of water. And then an hour later, you should produce 1 cup or 8 ounces of urine. And if you don't, then that means you're not hydrated enough. So that's the most accurate test. But in general, yeah, as long as you're peeing every 2 to 4 hours, your urine's clear with a slight yellow tinge, you're probably pretty well hydrated.
So Beth has a question of B12. Does it help prevent cognitive decline? Well, if you don't have adequate B12, then you better worry about cognitive decline. So make sure you're getting an adequate amount. Now, does taking B12, if you have a normal amount of B12, taking more prevent cognitive decline? I'm not convinced that's the case, but what does prevent cognitive decline is what Dean Ornish has recently demonstrated in a study, which I don't know if he's published it yet or if it's just in the process, but doing a whole food plant-based diet, addressing the pillars of lifestyle medicine of how you move throughout the day, not being sedentary, dealing with stress successfully, and not smoking and drinking, getting adequate sleep, and having good social connections is the road, the path toward the place called good health. And that's going to prevent cognitive decline, doing all those things.
Yeah, actually, the preliminary data is published, but yeah, the final data is not, still ongoing. But yeah, showing actual reversal of early stage Alzheimer's. And this is a randomized controlled trial, the highest level of evidence we have. So pretty exciting. The same diet and lifestyle he used to reverse heart disease, to reverse early stage prostate cancer, to lengthen the telomeres, which is the cellular aging, to actually reduce cellular aging, and then now Alzheimer's. So he's used the same protocol with good high levels of evidence for all of those things now.
May I ask a question about B12 again?
Yes.
I was always told not to take it at night because it can get you kind of wired. Is there any truth in that, or is that just a weird myth?
I never read anything about that. What about you, Scott?
I've just heard people say they feel like they have more energy when they take B12, but I don't know if that's, just placebo or if there's something to that, but I haven't seen anything about not taking it at night.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Sarah.
I think the last time I got my blood work done, the doctor told me that I had too much B12. You want me to walk and yell? No, it's okay. One second. Okay. The kids are running upstairs and I have to go up and tell them to stop. Okay. All right, but I'll do it quickly. That was my husband. So then he just said, take it 5 days a week and not on the weekend. So just take it less. I just wanted to say that. I don't know. And then the other thing was, this is like neither here nor there, but when I was a kid, when I ate Brazil nuts, my mouth would get weird. So I never ate them after that.
Okay.
So maybe I'll try again.
You could just do a Google search for foods that contain selenium, and there's some other foods that contain selenium besides Brazil nuts.
Okay, thank you. I have to go tell the kids to stop running.
Okay,
Okay.
but that's good for them. They need to run.
Yeah. They'll be ready for bed.
Right.
Maybe they had too much vitamin B.
Yeah. But if she hadn't left yet, I'd say, well, don't worry about the B12 being too high. It's not, there's no documented toxic levels because like I said, it's water soluble. So it just means, save your money. Don't spend so much on taking a B12 every day. Maybe you could take it. So I agree. Maybe she could probably get away with taking it 5 days a week or less often. Since it is so high. But so Sarah, I was just mentioning, there is no toxic level of B12, so you don't need to worry about that. But if you just want to save a few pennies, then just take it less, because you don't need that much, but there's no danger or health implications for having too high of B12. So it's just, like I said, more expensive urine, because the levels can show high, but there's no vitamin B toxicity. Now, fat soluble vitamins like vitamin D can cause toxicity. So A, D, E, and K are the fat soluble vitamins, and you can get toxic amounts of those.
This was D.
Oh, I thought you said B is in
Sorry,
boy.
maybe I made a mistake. Yeah, it was
Okay.
D.
Oh,
No, D you can be too high. So you don't want to be, I think there's studies that show anything over 100 is not going to be good. So ideal is between 30 and 80 kind of. But you don't want to be higher than probably 80 or 100, because
Okay.
there could be some toxicity.
I have to look
D,
at the
yeah.
paper. Okay, thank you.
D is in dog. Yeah, that's a fat soluble vitamin, so
Okay.
that you can get toxic levels of that.
how much D were you taking?
I was taking this bio something. It was like a liquid, white, viscousy liquid, and 2 drops. And I could go get it. One second.
Because I don't think I diagnosed anyone with vitamin
Yeah,
D
okay, wait one second.
toxicity. It's always been low vitamin D levels in all the testing I've ever done. So maybe she's taken some
I don't know, this
good
was this
dose.
biodemulsion. And then
Does
it's,
it say how much vitamin D is in it?
yeah, as cholecalciferol, 100 milligram, 4,000 IU.
Oh, so 4,000 IU?
Yeah, and I was taking 2 drops.
So you were taking 8,000 every day?
I don't know, that's what she told me to take, 2
Does
drops.
it say one drop is a?
Oh, no, it says 2 drops each day as a dietary supplement. So,
You were taking 4,000 a day.
yeah, that's right. 2 drops is 4,000.
I have actually never seen any toxicity on under 5,000. I've seen it for people who take 10,000. I haven't really seen it. I've read about it,
Okay.
but I haven't read about people getting really toxic on 4,000 a day.
Okay.
I don't know. So whatever you want to do there,
Yeah.
work it out with your doctor.
All right. Thank you.
You know, I decided it would really help for us to be a mathematician
Yeah.
to figure this all out.
Yeah, that's probably true. Probably true. Dr. Greger recommends 2,000 international units a day
Oh,
for the average person. 2,000
okay.
every
That-
day.
And that's pretty much
And-
every recommendation. That's pretty much for every adult. They should be
So maybe
getting
that's
that.
what I should do. Just take 1 drop, right? Then it'd be
Yeah, one drop.
okay.
Well, yeah, would be an adequate amount of D for most of the time, unless you had some specific reason, like they did a vitamin D level and it was well below 30.
Yeah, originally it was really low. And so I think I'm a more than less type of person. So I was probably dropping more in my mouth,
I see.
probably.
Yeah. So if you had low vitamin D initially, it was during a time when you were not taking vitamin D.
Well, I was taking a Jarrow, like a capsule, and then maybe it wasn't doing good. I don't know why.
May have had a very tiny amount of vitamin D in it.
Yeah, yeah,
And so when you're taking 2,000 international units a day, once you've raised your level to a
Yeah.
normal level, you're probably good with that amount.
And we're kind of leaving off the fact that supplements aren't FDA regulated, so we don't even know they have in them what they say they have in them. So the only way to know is like, okay, I've been taking this amount of vitamin D, my level isn't going up at all because, and since I started taking it, so then you might want to try a different brand and trial and error and see, oh yeah, now I'm taking this, it's going up in my blood work, so it must be good vitamin D, because you don't really know until you monitor that. Because again, yeah, they find that there's like almost half the time there's not either any or as much of the advertised ingredient in the supplement that it says that it's supposed to have. And then there's oftentimes contaminants and things, so it's really, buyer beware, crapshoot when it comes to supplements. And that's why we try to limit the supplements we take, because of those things, and because most cases we'll get everything we need from the food, not from supplements. But there are those exceptions, which we've been talking a lot about tonight.
thank you. Yeah.
Next week is the first in class, right?
Correct. Yeah. So those of you that can't make it to the church at the Springfield First Christian Church, 395 West Centennial, that'll be next Tuesday at 7 o'clock, 7 to 8:30. You can just click, just like you did tonight, tune in here, and you'll see. It won't be as interactive because you'll be seeing Charlie and I talking up front, and but Debbie's going to be manning the Zoom, and so you can still post questions in the chat, and they'll communicate those to Charlie and I up front, and it'll be recorded and all of that. And then, but because it isn't an open forum like this, it'll just be a particular topic each week for the next 12 weeks. Charlie will start those Thursday Zoom classes, open forum classes from 4 to 5 p.m. every Thursday, starting next Thursday, so the 17th. So it'll be more just like this tonight with just you guys and Charlie.
Is the church near where the Walgreens and that shopping center is? By
No, it's
Pioneer Park?
no, it's further west than Pioneer Parkway. So it's at the corner of Kelly Street and Centennial. So it looks like a
Oh.
little house, but it's a church, and it has a
Okay.
little reader board out front and everything. And it's just in a residential side street there. There's a little parking lot there, but you can also just park along Kelly Street there, that's on the south side of Centennial Street. And then Kelly runs north and south there. And of course, Centennial runs east and west.
Yeah, I have friends on Kelly, so I can figure it out.
Oh, okay. M and G bomb is mushrooms.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you as always. I'm just impressed with both of you so much.
Yeah, why did
And
we go to
also-
regular doctors when we have you?
That's why we have to say, hey, follow up with your regular doctor, because we can't prescribe you anything or order blood tests or any of that stuff.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so
Hey,
much.
everybody.
Good night.
Scott, thanks a bunch. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Bye, thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.
You
And
too.
I apologize for bringing up the cranberries.
No,
Hey,
it's-
no, that was good.
we
learned
like
something
that.
there.
We like the discussion so we can kind of look things up. It adds life to the event.
Yeah,
Keep coming.
yeah, no, the shame about it is about 10 or 15 years ago, I downloaded the nutrition database from the USDA,
Yep.
the complete database. It was just a big giant spreadsheet at the time. And I was going to convert it to a database, put it on small devices. But if you look for it now, you can't even find it online. It's like they've made their site so impenetrable to useful information. You can find articles on iodine and a bunch of references in the articles. You have to go to these technical journals to actually see what the results are. It's a shame, you know. It used to be more readily available. You could go to one site and type in a fruit or vegetable or cereal, and it would tell you what it had in 100 grams. You know,
Yeah.
everything, and not just the main ones, but basically it had about 50 different compounds that it measured, you know, in each thing. So all of the, you know, but I'll dig out my database and I'll send you a copy of that giant.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
good
everybody.
Thank
Have a
you
good
so
one.
much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Welcome.
And